Folks, welcome to another episode of Delta Deep with Roscoe. Now, before we dive into tonight's show, I've got something I need to get off my chest. You see, our dear Mayor Max Callahan has been up to his usual tricks, but this time he's really crossed the line. I mean, the man's got a heart colder than a witch's. Well, you get the idea. And you know what? I heard from a reliable source that he's been involved in some seriously shady business, something that would make your skin crawl. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if... Well, actually, maybe I shouldn't go into details on the air. Anyway, let's put that behind us and focus on tonight's episode. You know, speaking of hot water, I've got a funny little story for you. Just the other day, I was trying to fix my leaky faucet, and wouldn't you know it, I ended up making it worse. So there I was, standing in a puddle of water, soaked to the bone, and laughing at my own misfortune. Sometimes you've just got to find the humor in life's little mishaps, am I right? Sorry I'm rambling. We've got a real doozy of a listener-submitted story for you this week, as well as another one of my own personal tales. So buckle up, folks, because it's time to dive deep into the mysterious and unknown with your host, Roscoe. This week's listener-submitted story comes from a fella named Jax. Now, Jax and a group of his friends decided one day that they were going to explore an old abandoned house on the outskirts of their town. They'd heard plenty of spooky stories about this place, and naturally they were all curious to see if any of those tales held any truth to them. So, one sunny afternoon, they gathered their courage and made their way to the house. As they approached the house, they couldn't help but notice that it looked even more sinister up close than it did from a distance. The once white paint on the wooden exterior had chipped away, revealing the decaying wood beneath. The windows were shattered, and the front porch creaked ominously as they stepped onto it. As they entered the house, they found that it was surprisingly well preserved. The furniture was still there, albeit dusty and covered in cobwebs, and it seemed like someone might have been living there recently. Jax and his friends exchanged nervous glances, but their curiosity got the better of them, and they decided to continue their exploration. As Jax and his friends ventured deeper into the house, they couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The air inside was heavy, and the temperature seemed to drop as they made their way up the rickety staircase to the second floor. The floorboards groaned beneath their feet, and every little creak and groan seemed to echo throughout the empty house. Once they reached the top of the stairs, they noticed that one of the doors was slightly ajar, revealing a dark room beyond. As they gathered around the doorway, they began to hear strange, demonic-sounding noises coming from the attic above them. The sound sent shivers down their spines and made their hair stand on end. They glanced at each other, each of them silently asking the others if they had heard the same thing. They nodded in agreement, fear starting to take hold of them. Despite their fear, Jax and his friends couldn't resist the urge to investigate the source of the noises. They slowly and cautiously made their way up the narrow staircase leading to the attic, the strange noises growing louder and more unsettling with each step they took. As they reached the top of the attic stairs, the noises seemed to be coming from just above their heads. Jax hesitated for a moment, his heart pounding in his chest, and then he realized that the entrance to the attic wasn't a regular door. It was a push-up door, similar to a garage door. Jax and his friends managed to push the door open, but they had to find a way to prop it open since it was quite heavy. Jax spotted an old broom nearby, and in a moment of resourcefulness, he broke it in half to create a makeshift prop. With the door now secured, the group braced themselves for the unknown. The attic was dark and filled with cobwebs and old furniture, making it difficult to see what was lurking in the shadows. As they stepped further into the attic, the noises grew even more bizarre and seemed to be coming from a far corner of the room. The group inched closer, their flashlights scanning the area, trying to make sense of the chilling sounds. They could feel the tension in the air, and the anticipation was almost too much to bear. Jax's flashlight beam finally fell upon something that looked out of place. A large, rusty cage covered with a tattered cloth. The demonic noises seemed to be emanating from within the cage, and the group exchanged nervous glances, unsure of what they were about to discover. But before we reveal what they found, folks, we have to take a little break to pay the bills around here. Don't go anywhere, because I promise you won't want to miss the surprising twist that's coming up. So grab a snack, get yourself another sweet tea, and we'll be right back after these messages from our sponsor. Ladies and gentlemen, before we continue with our show, let's take a moment to thank this week's sponsor, St. Valentine's. Named in honor of the owner's beloved three-legged dog, Valentine, this quirky little eatery is the perfect place to grab a bite when you're in the mood for some good old-fashioned home-cooked meals with a twist. At St. Valentine's, you can enjoy a unique dining experience, surrounded by memorabilia of their canine mascot, while savoring a delicious array of comfort food classics. And if you're feeling adventurous, be sure to try their specialty dish, Rocky Mountain oysters, prepared to perfection and guaranteed to satisfy even the most daring of taste buds. So next time you're in town, don't forget to stop by and give them a try. Tell them Roscoe sent you, and you might even get a glimpse of the legendary St. Valentine himself, hobbling around and greeting customers with a wag of his tail. Welcome back, folks. When we left off, Jax and his friends were about to uncover the source of the strange demonic noises they had heard in the abandoned house's attic. As they cautiously approached the cage, their hearts raced and their minds swirled with images of the horrifying creature they might encounter. Jax took a deep breath and, with a trembling hand, pulled the tattered cloth away from the cage. To their utter surprise and relief, what they found inside the cage wasn't a demonic presence or a dangerous creature. Instead, they saw two baby vultures squawking and flapping their wings, clearly distressed by their captivity. As it turned out, the vultures were the source of the strange noises they had heard all along. The friends couldn't help but burst into laughter at the absurdity of the situation. All the fear and tension that had built up throughout their adventure evaporated in an instant, replaced by a sense of camaraderie and amusement. As they stood in the attic, surrounded by cobwebs and old furniture, Jax and his friends marveled at the unexpected turn of events. They had ventured into the abandoned house expecting to uncover dark secrets, only to find a couple of baby vultures who needed their help. Well, folks, Jax and his friends knew they couldn't just leave those poor baby vultures in the attic, so they carefully lifted the cage and carried it outside. They soon found out that vultures are a protected species, so they decided to do the responsible thing and take them to a nearby wildlife rescue center. The staff at the rescue center were grateful for their actions and assured them that the baby vultures would be well taken care of. With a newfound appreciation for the unexpected surprises that life can throw at you, Jax and his friends walked away from the experience with a fantastic story to tell. Now, ain't that something? Who would have thought that an adventure in an abandoned house would lead to a wildlife rescue mission? It just goes to show you that sometimes the scariest things in life can turn out to be, well, just a couple of baby vultures squawking in the night. With that, let's move on to this week's Roscoe's Weekly Tale segment. I've got a real doozy of a story for y'all this time, so buckle up and get ready for a wild ride. Welcome back to Delta Deep, folks. I've got quite the tale for you this week. It's a story that involves my older brother, Henry, who used to be a truck driver back in the day. Now, my brother has always had a knack for getting himself into strange situations, but this one takes the cake. So, picture this. It's a dark, moonlit night, and the air is heavy with the scent of gasoline and the distant sound of crickets chirping. Henry's driving his rig down a lonesome stretch of highway, feeling the weight of the road bearing down on him as his eyelids grow heavy. Realizing he's running low on fuel, he spots a flickering neon sign up ahead, advertising the last gas station for miles. He pulls his truck into the deserted station, the gravel crunching beneath his tires as he comes to a stop. The place seems to be abandoned, with no other customers in sight and only the dim glow of the overhead lights to guide him. He steps out of his truck and starts to fill up the tank, the rhythmic thud of the gas pump providing a soothing soundtrack to the otherwise silent night. But then, out of nowhere, Henry hears something that sends a chill down his spine. As Henry stands there, filling up his truck, he suddenly hears a voice calling out from the woods nearby. It's a strange, disembodied sound, repeating the same set of phrases over and over, almost like a recording. He strains his ears, trying to make out the words, but they remain just out of reach, echoing through the trees like a taunt and whisper. Despite the unsettling nature of the voice, curiosity gets the better of Henry, and he decides to investigate. As he approaches the edge of the woods, he notices a few odd details that he hadn't picked up on earlier. The gas station's windows are cracked, and the front door is slightly ajar. A faint smell of burnt rubber hangs in the air, mingling with the scent of pine needles and damp earth. Henry can't shake the feeling that something is amiss, but he was driven by an inexplicable need to find out who or what is behind that eerie voice. With each step Henry takes toward the woods, the voice seems to grow more distant, leading him further and further away from the gas station. He follows the sound, his heart pounding in his chest as he navigates the dense underbrush, hoping to find the source of the mysterious call. He begins to notice strange details that hint at the encounter he's about to have. There are scratch marks on the trees as if something with sharp claws had been tearing at the bark. The forest floor is littered with the remains of small animals, their bones picked clean as though they had been devoured by a predator. Even the air feels different, heavy, charged with an unsettling energy. As he follows the direction of the voice, Henry could see a clearing in the distance. The clearing itself appears almost otherworldly, bathed in pale moonlight, the tall trees casting ominous shadows on the ground. But as he draws nearer to the clearing where he believes the voice to be coming from, he notices something else. He spots it, a strange dark form lurking behind one of the trees. He squints, trying to make out its shape, but it remains partially hidden with the exception of one thing. He sees the faint shimmer of what appears to be teeth. The creature's teeth seem to be moving in sync with the strange, repeating voice he's been hearing. The realization hits him like a ton of bricks. The creature is the source of the voice, and it's been luring him deeper into the woods. A sudden flash of intuition tells Henry that he stumbled into something far more dangerous than he ever anticipated. Panic begins to set in, and he realizes that he's ventured too far from his truck, leaving him vulnerable and exposed. Henry decides that his best course of action is to make a run for the gas station, which is closer than his truck at this point. He gathers his courage, takes a deep breath, and begins sprinting towards the safety of the gas station, desperate to put as much distance as possible between himself and the mysterious creature lurking in the woods. Now, I gotta apologize. I'm gonna take a quick break, folks. I just noticed I missed a call from the missus, and you know how it is. If you don't call back right away, you'll never hear the end of it. So stick around and I'll be right back to continue Henry's harrowing encounter in just a moment here on Delta Deep. All right, folks, I'm sorry about this, but I just wanted to let you know that I might need to sign off a bit early tonight. After I finish telling Henry's story, you know how life gets sometimes, and it seems like things just keep piling up. But don't worry, everything is going to be okay for old Roz. We're going to get through this tale, so let's pick up right where we left off. So when we left off, Henry was running towards the gas station, and he swears he could feel that thing right behind him. Now, I got to be honest with you all, my brother wasn't exactly known for being athletic growing up, so I can only imagine the scene. Anyway, Henry makes it to the gas station, and he finds that all the lights are on, but the place is completely ransacked. There's no sign of the attendant anywhere. Fearing for his safety, he quickly locks the place up and turns off the lights. As Henry took a closer look at the chaos inside the gas station, it seemed like the ransacking had just happened recently. Shelves were knocked over and merchandise was scattered all over the floor. Glass from a shattered display case crunched under his feet, and the cash register was wide open, its contents strewn about. Even the door to the back room was hanging off its hinges, as if someone or something had forced their way in. So Henry's in this little gas station, unsure of what to do next. And I bet some of you listeners out there might be wondering, oh, why didn't he just call the police? Well, let me tell you, back then they didn't have cell phones like we do now. I know it's hard to believe, but my dear old brother Henry, that old fart, is older than sin. Sorry, Henry, Anyways, Henry's holed up in the gas station, not wanting to leave the safety it provided, but also growing increasingly anxious about the situation. He knew he couldn't stay there forever, but venturing out into the unknown darkness seemed like an equally terrible idea. After some time goes by, Henry suddenly hears the voice again, but this time it's faint and distant. Despite his fear, he decides to listen closely, trying to make out what the creature might be saying. It sounded like it was repeating the same phrases it had before, but this time Henry is able to piece together one specific phrase. How can I help you? This phrase sends chills down his spine, as it was the same phrase that the gas station attendant would say to greet any customers that walked through the door. The realization that whatever was out there had been observing them and now mimicking human speech was truly unsettling. Henry knew that he couldn't stay in the gas station any longer, and he had to make a break for his truck. He takes a deep breath, musters up all the courage he can find, and slowly opens the gas station door. The night is eerily silent, aside from the distant, echoing voice that continues to repeat the same phrases. With his adrenaline pumping, Henry bolts out of the gas station and starts sprinting towards his truck. And he can feel the cold air stinging his face as he pushes himself to run faster and faster, all the while fearing that the creature could be right behind him at any moment. As Henry gets closer to his truck, he glances over his shoulder and catches a glimpse of a large, dark figure with a pale white face standing by the gas station. The creature is grinning menacingly, its eyes locked on him. Henry's blood runs cold, but he knows he can't afford to stop now. He finally reaches his truck. Fumbling with the keys in his trembling hands, he manages to unlock the door, throw himself inside, and lock it again before starting the engine. As he peels out of the parking lot, he takes one last look at the gas station, only to see that the creature is gone, vanished without a trace. Now, I know my brother can be a little kooky, but I'll let you listeners decide for yourselves what to make of it. I should mention that I did some digging of my own to see if I could find any proof of the gas station's existence on that stretch of road. I searched through old maps, newspaper archives, and even talked to some of the locals who had lived in the area for decades, but strangely enough, I couldn't find a single shred of evidence that there was ever a gas station there. Now, I'm not saying that my brother's story isn't true or that he's making things up. It could very well be that the gas station was just one of those forgotten, out-of-the-way places that slipped through the cracks of history. But the fact that I couldn't find any record of it just adds another layer of mystery to Henry's already eerie encounter. With that, I'm going to have to take another quick break here. I need to make another phone call, but I promise I'll try to squeeze in a quick call-in segment when we get back, so stay tuned and don't go anywhere. I'll be right back with more Delta Deep. Hey there, folks. I'm back, and I've got some news. Unfortunately, we won't be able to have a call-in segment tonight. I know that's disappointing for some of you, but sometimes life throws curveballs our way. Before we sign off, I just want to say how much I appreciate all of you who've been tuning into Delta Deep over the years. You've been the best audience a host could ever ask for. Now, I'm not sure what the future holds, but I want all of you to remember one thing. Always fight for what you believe in, no matter the obstacles you face. Keep your eyes and ears open and never stop seeking the truth. So, from the bottom of my heart, thank you all for being a part of this journey with me. It's been an amazing ride, and I hope we can continue to... hold on a second, folks. Now, sorry about that, folks. It seems I've got some more urgent matters to attend to, so for now, this is Roscoe from Delta Deep signing off. Good night, and stay curious, my friends.